Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good night. Wherever you are, welcome to Soul Empowerment. Today, our topic is called The Mysterious World of Feelings. This is going to be fun, I know, because there are so many perspectives on this topic, and we are but four voices who are talking about this, and there are billions of others who have the same conversation, or maybe they don't have any conversations at all. I don't know. I guess that's what we're going to find out. So my name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach, and I am one of the senior partners on the Wellness Universe. I do lots of stuff. I'm a writer. I'm an author. I do all kinds of interesting things, and I keep myself busy. But I am not here to talk about myself so much as to encourage my co-hosts here to share their wisdom and beauty and magnificence. And I'm going to start with you today, Sarah. Tell us who you are, where you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Because I love it. Hi, I'm Sarah Jane, but you can call me and think of me as Sarah. I live in the UK on the south coast, and I'm a complementary health therapist, author, speaker, just general founder of Gift of Healing TV, creator of vocal Reiki, speak light language, voice for many mythical beings and dragons. Yeah, multiple strings to my bow, and love sharing on programs like this, because I really think it's important that wisdom, you use that word, David, because David is also the main author of a book that's coming out next month, so October 24.
October 8th.
Yeah, I know, but I just said October as a general. If people are listening to this in 10 years' time.
Right. Oh.
So sort of, I think, so, and it's sharing our wisdom. When we can share what we've learned from our own experiences and our own understandings, hopefully we can touch lives and support other people, hopefully to move a bit quicker through their life than we have through ours.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. Scott, I know you've been on a big trek recently. Tell us a little bit about where you are, who you are, and what you do and why.
Hey, Scott Holmes, up here in Boston, Massachusetts, or down here in Boston, Massachusetts, depending on where you're from. Much like David and Sarah, and also Gail, there's a laundry list of things that I do, have done, will do. Just got back from a 2-week spiritual trip to Peru, which included Machu Picchu. And when I went, I said, I always wanted to go to Machu Picchu. And the guide said, well, Machu Picchu's okay, but we got other stuff. We went to Lake Titicaca. We went to a number of spiritual sites. We did Inca rituals. And I found out that I am apparently an Inca in my base soul, because they worship Father Sun. Father Sun is the bringer of love and light. And everything that I have done in my healing journey has been about light, white light, and also love, compassion. And so that's what I try and bring to everything that I do. And this funny thing this ball of yarn that was passed from person to person is my tribe. There were 20 people that went on this trekking the Andes, and at the end of it, we told what was most important about everything that we did, what our wisdom was, and this is to remind me of the journey. But also, I want to remind people that the gifts of wisdom that David has kind of shepherded through with 20 plus authors really is about understanding. It's about getting to a point in your life where you can indeed allow other people to not have to put their hand on the stove in order to find out that it's going to burn them. That it's that warning, it's that understanding that, hey, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. So if you want to do it, this is the consequences. And it's really a wonderful read. Had the ability to read some pieces, and it is marvelous for anybody who wants to take the next step forward, but also wants to learn and maybe hasn't had the guidance through their life. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Scott. And yeah, I can tell that you're suffering the effects of some kind of bodily reaction to your trip, perhaps,
as we
or
call
maybe
it,
returning to Boston, whatever it might be.
reintegration into regular society when you're 2 weeks in the Andes. Yes.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you for sharing, brother. Gail, last but certainly by no means least, please tell us who you are, where you are, why you are, and what you do. No, you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean, and thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome, and I'm Gail Nowak. I am all about communicating boldly, leading lovingly, contributing to other people's lives, making the world a better place. I would say professionally, officially, that means I'm a communications and emotional wellness coach. I work with my clients to support them and guide them in creating authentic, healthy business relationships without hiding or silencing themselves, so that they too can communicate boldly, lead lovingly, and make the world a better place. Like Sarah, Scott, David, I bring a whole host of abilities and modalities into the work that I do, mainly focused on energy, coaching, transformational coaching, and a healing-centered approach. And it's really all about that journey of moving from hiding in plain sight, because many of us either learned or were told that we should be seen and not heard, or that we've learned to be invisible in order to please others. And we're in a world where our needs, our thoughts, our feelings, like we're talking about today, they do matter. And when we're coming from that solid place of love, we can really step into becoming a bold and gentle leader in this new earth paradigm and create something amazing, something loving, something creative, something positive in the world. And I don't want to get too political here. I'm just going to say, if you watched and tuned in the States to an event that was on last night, we don't have to keep perpetuating that. We can really tap into our creative power. We can really own our feelings and take responsibility for our feelings. And we're going to talk more about that in a little bit. And that really is one of probably a few keys to stepping into a different way of leading and bringing us into a different way of being, a different way of being human. So that's what I'm all about. I'm here in Massachusetts with Scott as well. And I'm just so honored to be part of this conversation today.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Gail. Yeah, I know that politics can be very polarizing. It's interesting how that word politics and polarity seem to have similar roots. And it's really difficult, I know, for most of us to even have a rational discussion about politics without getting emotionally involved, without our feelings becoming part of the conversation. To all of those who are here for the live presentation, thank you for being here. Please feel free to share your comments or questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer those. But I do want to get us onto the topic of feelings. And why on earth would we call it a mysterious world? Is it really that mysterious? Or are we just deluding ourselves into thinking it's confusing? What do you guys think?
All right. Thank you. So, feelings, interesting. Talk to many women, and they say that they pick out their clothes in the morning, and they look at things depending on their feelings. And so, many times, their feelings are shown. They wear their feelings. There's always that comment of wearing your feelings on your sleeve, right? About how you're doing, what you're doing. Really interesting. So when I make a comment to, you look very purple today. Why, thank you very much. It's because that's how they're feeling and that's how they want to show themselves. And it's really interesting when I find that most men are colorblind in that they don't view their surroundings. And women are very, very attuned to their surroundings, their colors, the textures, and everything else. And it's important. I'm taking this from a male perspective, just in that I see those things now. I never used to. And it's fascinating if you just stop and breathe and see what other people are, how they walk, how they feel. The integration of the four of us today is a little more subdued than it is most times. And we're talking about feelings here. And it's interesting because I think we're all very, very connected to the heart. I know from all of you, connected to the heart, and that's where you get most of your input from what other people are feeling, what they're doing. Last point. I used to have this discussion with my wife. Anger. And I was first married, and I did something stupid, most likely. And my wife didn't talk to me for 2 days or acknowledge me for 2 days. She would walk right by me. This is what her parents would do. They would go a week without talking to one another. And I said, please do me a favor. Whatever you do, after we were resolving it, I said, don't ever do that again. I said, throw dishes, slam doors, yell, scream, kick, whatever to display how you're feeling, but don't just shut down like that. I said that was the worst possible thing you could do, because it triggered in me that whole part of not being seen. And for me growing up, that was kind of the thing, seen and not heard. And she did that, and we resolved how to, when we were in disagreement, how to really resolve it. We used to call it the pink elephant in the room. That if it was there and it was that big, don't talk around it. We used to have a stuffed animal, a little elephant, and we used to put it on the table, which meant we had to talk about something. So feelings put aside, we would talk about it. So feelings are interesting. And last point is, feelings are emotions. Emotions are energy in motion. Where it resides in the body, how it feels in the body, what it brings up in the body, all of the traumas that we've had as a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 24-year-old. And so feelings are interesting because they are that complicated. And there is that mystery to each and every person.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah, you were pretty anxious to jump in there. Did you want to say something?
I was quite happy to, because feelings, sensations, sort of, and they can be really confusing. And I was just thinking back, and I know in our organizing this, I talked about this, but because of the traumas I went through as a child, and I'm guessing the feelings every time my parents appeared at the hospital, that probably it was meant to be anticipation, that I was actually going to be taken home. But crikey, I was less than a year old and 1 year old, because I spent my first birthday in hospital. And in that 3 months, that feeling took on a different meaning. And it became about being fear, about being nervous, about anxiety. It was because of that I was left yet again. And that feeling then had that name of being anxious, etc., etc. It didn't have the name of anticipation and excitement, which is probably exactly what it was. But for years, it had gained a new name. So it wasn't understood because of the experience had around it at the age that I was. And it was only when I was getting ready on a very early morning to fly up to Scotland to be on a program here called The Weakest Link. This was a few years ago. And I suddenly became aware of this sensation. And that was the light bulb moment of actually, and about the whole thing, about the time in hospital, etc., about this feeling and why I'd always thought it was something else, and realizing that actually this has got elements of excitement and anticipation and how's the day going to go and what's going to happen, etc.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And so, can feelings be confusing? Too blooming right, they can. They absolutely can, especially if it's related to an experience for a child. And if as an adult, it can even be confusing. So heaven knows for a child.
You know, it's interesting. As I've been hearing both of you speak, I noticed, you know, the word emotions came up, the word sensations came up. But another thing that came up for me as you were speaking, Sarah, you were talking about the story you were making up in your head about what this feeling meant, the meaning that came about as a result of it. And, you know, as I've done my own personal growth work on feelings, one thing I have come to realize is that feelings are not complicated at all. We have made them complicated through our language and through the way we use words in our communication and so forth. And we have, what's the word I want to say here? We have commingled the idea of feelings, thoughts, and sensations, or emotions, thoughts, and sensations into one word, feel. I feel. And so people will say things like, I feel angry, which that actually describes an emotion. Or I feel cold, which more describes a body sensation, something that's going on in your body. Or I feel ignored. Well, clearly ignored is not a feeling. Ignored is a story going on in my head that, well, if I'm feeling ignored, what does that really mean? It means somebody out there, somebody, presumably the person I'm talking to, is ignoring me, not paying attention to me. So you see the story, we then pretend that it's a feeling, or we might even go as far as to say, I feel like you're ignoring me, as if that's a feeling, and it's not really a feeling, it's a judgment. You are ignoring me. That's the judgment I'm making. It's the story I'm making up. So what I like people to understand is that, or what has really helped me is to understand that every feeling is a combination of emotion, sensation, and thought. And they almost always occur together. They almost always occur simultaneously, although you may perceive one occurring before the other. And so a lot of psychologists claim that every emotion is just the result of some kind of thought that you had, or every sensation is a result of thought. Thought is the initiator of everything. That's what some people say. Well, I don't know about you, but I've had other situations happen in my life where the first thing I notice is the sensation, or the first thing I notice is the energy in my body, or something. And then the thought comes. I've had it the other way around. So I don't believe it's true that the thought always precedes these things. Although I will say this, I am coming to the awareness, perhaps, or conclusion, or whatever, that all emotion is tied somehow to my ego mind. If I am totally relaxed and my ego mind is silent and I'm in a state of meditative state of relaxation and serenity, I notice that the sensations tend to quiet down, the thoughts all quiet down, and the emotional energy quiets down too. I find that fascinating. So maybe there is some correlation between ego mind and feelings. I don't know. It's just a theory that I've had as a result of some recent work that I've been doing. But I think the important thing for people to understand is that every feeling, if you think about it, has a combination of thought, emotion, and sensation associated with it. And if you can remember that and say, so let's say I'm having a conversation, I don't know, Gail, let's say you're having a conversation with me and you're saying, I'm really feeling ignored or neglected or something like that right now. I can say, okay, so what I'm hearing is that you have a belief that you're being ignored or neglected. What's the sensation in your body? What's the emotion that you're actually feeling that's associated with that? So let's get out of the story and into the guts of the situation, because that's where most of our feelings come from, is our gut, right? And let's just talk about that. And often what will happen is now the story will begin to expand and you'll say, yeah, I see that, this happened to me when I was 4 years old. My mom just wasn't paying attention to me and I was feeling very upset and blah, blah, blah. So this often happens to us. And so what we do is we forget about those things in the past and we try to hide them. We try not to show them, but we carry them with us forward as we live in our lives. And we end up some point in the future acting out that very thing that we tried to hide for so long. This is where real work becomes important for us. So any feeling that you may have at any time is an opportunity to look within and say, okay, what's the story that I'm making up about this? What's going on? Is this really true? Is my ego mind in charge? Can I relax? I mean, all these things can come up. So I guess what I'm saying in this very long-winded rant is feelings do not have to be as complicated as we think they are. If we can learn to separate the experience of a feeling into its component thoughts, emotions, and sensations, then we can begin to understand maybe what's going on in the reality, rather than spending too much time entertaining the thought, the story, the whole fantasy that we create in our mind as a result of this. Anyway, sorry, I've been kind of going on there for a bit, but I just wanted to say that. Dale, you haven't had a chance to speak yet. Why don't you say something?
Yeah, and I always feel grateful when you all go first, because then I have things to riff off of. And you mentioned at the end there that this is a skill. This is a skill that we can learn. We don't come with the manual of emotions and feelings. I think that when we're children, we're in our natural essence, and that natural essence is joy, right? And curiosity. And then we have these outside influences that make us, as children, we receive confusing messages. So it is a skill. I do believe that our emotions and feelings, mysterious and complex, yes and no. Yes, because we often don't have models to follow on how to name and identify our feelings, the different components of feelings, like you just outlined for us, David. It becomes a lot less mysterious when we learn that skill. Mm-hmm. As you were talking, David, I was reminded of a conversation that you and I had maybe even years ago, where you were sharing that. And I don't know if it was a day later or if it was later that day, something happened with my husband, and I didn't really like what happened. And I remembered our conversation, and I went into it just slightly different. And I said, when you do this, I don't even remember what it was, but when you do this particular behavior, I tell myself this story that you don't care. And what a different what a different conversation that was. right? Versus going in and I don't know how I would have gone into that, right? Had I not said it that way, maybe I wouldn't have even said anything. You know, knowing my past self, and knowing that it was very emotionally shut down for so many years, I might have just suppressed it and not said anything at all, right? So it is a skill. Sometimes we feel confused because we don't know how to just take a moment and be with our own feelings and be with those own sensations in our body and really connect to in a tune with, wow, the emotion that's coming up for me is sadness or fear or joy. And I want Renee is here, and I just want to acknowledge Renee because you're sharing, you know, that you're in a really vulnerable place. And number one, like, thank you for sharing that. I want to acknowledge the courage and the bravery that you're, you know, number one, just showing up today, right? Showing up today with an open mind and to receive perhaps something that can help you in a difficult situation that you're going through. And I'm trying to read as I'm talking here. And yeah, you're tired. You know, you're feeling tired. You're starting to name some of these feelings. And you have a lot on your plate. And it's okay. You know, you're not alone. A lot of people are going through difficult times right now. And hopefully there is something here in this conversation for you that will bring some peace and some clarity to what you're going through right now. I don't know if this is appropriate, David, but if Renee, you want to reach out to us, any one of us or all of us after the show and talk further, is it okay to invite Renee to do that?
Yeah. Yep, that's what we're here for, is to help people. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just wanted to say, first of all, I appreciated your share about how you found a different way to communicate with your husband. That really is the first step. And what you modeled in that brief snippet of conversation was taking responsibility for your own feelings and for the thoughts that were going on, rather than trying to project it onto him as if it were his fault, as if he were the agent of that behavior, of that reaction. This is something that a lot of people don't want to do. I mean, think about the language that we have in our world today. You made me feel. You made me feel. You hurt my feelings. I'm sorry to say, nobody can make you feel anything. Nobody can hurt your feelings. They can do what they do, and you can then choose how to react to that or respond to it if you wish. And we have become such a world, I would say, of defenders and attackers. And that's all ego mind stuff. That's all it is. That's what's going on, is one ego mind attacking another and the other one responding in kind. And so you end up with these horrible energy exchanges that are not serving anybody in a positive way at all. So how do we stop it? Well, I mean, one thing, Jesus said, turn the other cheek, right? But he didn't say, keep turning the other cheek. At some point, you have to say, stop, that's enough. But you don't have to turn around and behave in kind to those people. You don't have to behave the same way. You know, you can say, stop, that's enough. I'm walking away. If you want to have a real conversation with me, then we'll do it again sometime when you're not this agitated or whatever, however you want to say it. But I have to take responsibility for my own safety, my own care, my own emotions, all of that. I have to take responsibility for it. And I cannot blame you, even if I want to, no matter how much my ego mind says it's your fault. It isn't. You're just being you, and I am reacting to that you-ness right now. So I do get kind of wound up about this because it's a powerful, powerful topic. And
Yep.
I think that we all need to learn. There is no end of learning. Sarah, I want to hear your perspective on this.
I think it was one of your president's wives that made some sort of comment about it's up to us whether we give other people power over us. It is our choice. And that saying that you've made me feel this way, that's giving them power over us. And so we have to take our power back. It is really important to love ourselves enough to say, it doesn't matter what you think. This is who you are. But I know I've said this so many times. When you hear something and you're thinking, oh, ask them if they meant what you heard, not what they said. Rephrase it to how the reaction you had to those words, what those words meant to you. You know, a classic is the word service for me. People use that word, and it's one I'm pretty anti because of being a waitress, being a barmaid, being a chambermaid. They're all service industry where you are doing for others. I'm not here to do for anybody. I'm here to be. I'm here to support people to help themselves. My youngest sister adores the word service. So if I use it, it's got one very definite meaning. If she uses it, it means something totally different. And so we're sisters, for crying out loud. We were brought up in the same family, same parents. But I think our experiences become our perceptions, our understanding of words. And what I would say to you, Renee, is you have to love yourself. Show the world who you are, regardless of what you've heard other people think. You think they think about you, what they said about you. Have the courage to say, what I'm hearing from you is this. Yes, this aspect may be true, but this is what I am going through at the moment. Stand up for yourself. And if people don't understand, then it's how you work through that. And if you can, and I appreciate from what you've said, and I'm not going to read out the things that you've said, because we shouldn't do that. But if we are not in that place of power of self, we have to be the ones that help ourselves. We have to be. Now, there are going to be people out there, if it's one of us that can support you to feel better about you. That is the most important thing for each and every one of us. The feelings, the emotions, the energies that appear to be running rife through us. While we concentrate on the negative, that is all we are going to get in our lives. When we concentrate on how lucky am I to have this? I've opened my eyes this morning. I'm breathing fresh air. You know, I have got some food on my table. I have got a roof over my head. When we concentrate on the positive. I don't know how I did this. A couple of years ago, there was some youths damaging a local woodland, which is actually private property, but we all have access to it to walk dogs, etc. But these youngsters were really damaging the woods, and I did actually report them. And on one occasion, one of the guys from the trust that runs it had been there initially, And I tried talking to the youngsters, and one of them raised a spade, a big, full, adult-sized spade, up as if he was going to hit with it. And I cannot believe, I just totally ignored it. I was totally calm. And he did it once, and he did it twice. And he was trying to be threatening, and it didn't work. But I had started my walk through that woodland, speaking a whole load of light language. So whether that had actually brought my energies into that space of complete and utter calmness, that we can actually be in that place. Find a way that works for you, to help you to stay centered within yourself.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Your microphone is breaking up a little bit right now. I'm having a hard time understanding some of what you're saying, but I do appreciate what I did understand. So thank you for that.
Okay, I'll mute it for now, because I'm getting sound now that I'm not sure where that's coming from, because there's nothing going on here. But I'll mute that.
I was just going to say, this idea that you hurt my feelings, or you made me feel such and such. It's interesting to me that parents, and I've done this myself. I remember as a parent, I would hear one child saying, my other child, Jimmy hurt my feelings. You've got to come and protect me. And so naturally, I, being the father, the smart father that I am, go after the feeling hurter rather than teaching the child, wait a minute, he doesn't have the power to hurt your feelings. You see, I didn't understand this back then, but I do understand it now. And I would take a completely different approach. I would say something like, so it sounds like you're not feeling very good about what happened. Tell me about it. And let's try and sort out, and don't even involve the other child. As Sarah said, the moment I say, you hurt my feelings, I'm giving you all the power. So if I can take responsibility and say, oh, I see, I'm having this experience of hurt feelings because of something that you did or whatever, and I'm not willing to take responsibility for my reaction. And that's often what we've been taught to do. We have been taught to do that. It's rampant in our schools right now. So, yeah. So we have to do this for ourselves, first of all, and then we have to do it for the people that we're responsible for, our children, our grandchildren. Teach them. Teach them. Scott, I'm sorry, you've been kind of...
No, I've been agreeing. I've been agreeing with you all along. I just wanted to support what you're saying. A little small twist on it. So I've asked people, I've had clients, and I asked them, when was the last time you felt joy? Without just the simple. And the number of people, when they are in that really bad place, I can't remember when. I can't remember what joy feels like. I can't remember what it looks like. I don't know how to express it. Any number of times I've asked, are you worthy of love? I've asked clients that. You want to hear a lot of silence? Ask somebody that. Are you worthy of love? And it's how we define the emotion. If I say joy, what does that look like to you? How do you define it? Sarah, you said service. One of the Inca traditions is love, wisdom, service. 3 tenets that they work at. They don't look at work as work because work is a punishment, but work as a service. They see it as a very high level of living, to be able to be in service to everybody around them. So it's how we define the words. When I say blue, each of you would pick a different color blue. Are they blue? Yes, but they're shades of blue, right? Some love it dark, some like an aqua, some like it. David, you've got 4 colors of blue behind you. So we all have that. Defining the word. The other thing I would bring up, David, and I think you brought it up masterfully, is boundaries. And Gail, you really touched on it, was boundary. I'm not willing to accept how you're behaving. I will talk to you when you can speak rationally about it, when you can talk about it, when we are at a different emotional level, vibrational level. And that's that safeguard that we have that we don't use a lot of times when we're as adults, that we have the ability to use in every situation. For me, it's taking a breath. I used to be very quick-witted, but a very acerbic. And I didn't realize how many people I hurt just with my coming back, because that's how I grew up. We all busted each other. Up here in New England and Boston, you busted each other. You busted your father, your mother, your kid, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins. You busted everybody, right? Well, I went into business and I would bust somebody and they would be hurt by it. There would be bad feelings about it. And in New England, if you're getting busted, that means I like you. It doesn't mean I don't like you. It means I like you. So I had to really come off of that. And I did that by taking a breath. Not the first thing out of my mouth, because that was usually wrong. But taking a breath, how should I react? How should I relate in this circumstance? And it really smoothed everything out much, much easier. Did it mean I wasn't being true to myself? No. It just means I was being a little more considerate of my words and how it affected other people. So
Beautiful.
How we define it, boundaries, and also respect for other people.
Yeah, really important stuff. You talked about having clients who are in a kind of a dark place or whatever, and asking them, when was the last time you felt joy or, calmness or whatever it is, peace. I've had clients like that too. And I have found that rather than even asking the question, I would say something like, what do you want to have happen with how you are feeling right now? And, usually they'll say something like, well, I want to get rid of it. I want to find my way to joy. I want to experience something like this or whatever. And I say, okay, great. Let's start where you are. Let's talk about whatever you're feeling right now. I don't know. I don't want the words. I want you to just kind of go inside and let the feeling express itself. Whatever it is. Don't worry about the words. And often what will happen is people, they'll start to move. Their body will start to move around. They'll maybe try to shake something. Maybe the voice will get loud. Maybe they will scream. Who knows what's going to happen? But they'll do this for a while to get that emotion, that energy, that stuff that's in their body, and just work it out. And after a while, it may take as few as 30 seconds, or it may take a couple of minutes. It usually isn't very long, although to the person doing it, it might feel like a long time, right? But once that is expressed, then my invitation is, okay, how are you feeling now? What's just happened? Well, all this dark black gunk just kind of came out of my body. However they describe it. And I say, great. Tell me more. Where is it now? It's over here. I said, well, let's do something to get rid of it completely. And we'll create a little ritual right there on the spot to, I don't know, imagine burning it or tossing it up in a weather balloon and just letting it float off into the sunset. Whatever. Some kind of a ritual to get that energy out completely. And now ask, okay, now that energy's gone, what's coming into your body to replace it? And almost always I will get people saying, yeah, it's like warm, sunny, blue, whatever color it might be. And I said, tell me what that feels like. Well, it feels very gentle. It feels very loving. It feels very soft and smooth. It's purring like a kitten. I don't know what words they're going to say. I have no idea. And tell me now, what's true about you in this moment? And that's when the words come out. I am a loving, magnificent, fantastic being. And I'm here to do some major work. And how do you feel about what you just said? Wow, I feel joy. It's amazing how that can happen in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes. All it requires is a willingness to just be present with someone and allow that person to have a complete, safe expression of the emotional energy. Now, of course, you have to create some boundaries. You can't have people, picking up chairs and smashing them on tables and stuff like that, because we make some agreements beforehand. You're free to express yourself in any way you like, as long as you don't hurt yourself, another person, or any property. Now, this often, it just amazes me how amazingly brilliant and simple this process is. People have all kinds of names for it. I call it shadow work, but it's not really shadow work, because we're not getting into any old stories about what might have caused this in the first place. You see, it's just allowing the full and complete and safe expression of the emotional energy is what it is. And every time I do it myself, I always reconnect to joy and peace and serenity and all that. Other people have slightly different experiences, but it seems to be a universal solution to a problem. And I don't have to have a facilitator present to do it if I know how to do it myself. I can facilitate myself in this process, you see? But it requires a little bit of understanding, and it's, of course, not judgmental at all. It's saying you feel what you feel. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no good feelings or bad feelings. There's just feelings, and some of them are pleasant and some of them are not so pleasant. Some of them you prefer not to have, but you have them anyway. So learn to express them. Learn to express them in a way that is safe and not hurtful to yourself or to anybody else or to any property. That is the secret right there. Dale, I'd like to hear from you now.
Yeah. I love that. David. Thank you. This week is interesting because I did a different show yesterday, and we were talking about how triggers are teachers, right? Triggers or unwanted experiences can be teachers. And I went for a walk this morning, and a really interesting thing happened. I was thinking of something that happened a year ago, in an experience that I had, and you bringing up kind of the shadow work kind of brought this forward for me to share this. I occasionally check in with this experience because it really triggered me. And I had a lot of hurt feelings around it. And I keep going back to this experience. So this is something that you can do to really acknowledge your feelings and your emotions and your sensations and your thoughts and the story that you're telling yourself. It doesn't have to be a one and done. Actually, a lot of times it's not a one and done process, right? This is an iterative process. So anyway, I'm walking and I realize, isn't this interesting? We're talking about taking full responsibility for our feelings. And I could see, our relationships can be mirrors, right? And I remember specifically saying in this experience, I feel justified in the boundary that I set with this person. But I also, as I was walking today, very clearly remember saying to this person, we're all adults here. We're all responsible for our feelings, because this person was speaking for somebody else about something that this person was not involved in. And it triggered me. But I saw it from a very different perspective today, where I was like, was I taking full responsibility for my feelings in that moment? And so as I was walking, I was like, you know what? My next takeaway from this experience, because I've had many takeaways, okay? This has been a year of working on this particular experience. My takeaway today was, thank you for teaching me, for showing me that respect matters to me, and empathy matters to me, and compassion matters to me. and that my feelings matter to me. And for the opportunity for me to show up for me. And I forgive you. I forgive me for forgetting, those things. And I forgive you for forgetting those things for yourself and for me. And so it was a very wonderful, quick walk around the block. But, sometimes we have these experiences that are sticky and they stay with us. And if you can expand your capacity to be with the unpleasant feelings and to have compassion for yourself, not judge those feelings, allow the feelings to be there, right? Not beat yourself up for how you reacted in the moment. And to take the time to reflect and really ask, like, okay, if I had a do-over, how would I want to be this time? How would I want to be in this situation going forward? How would I want to connect differently in this situation going forward? It's really powerful to reflect on these things from the standpoint of accepting that you're actually whole and powerful and complete. And when you remember that about yourself, you can show up in a very different way. You can have that self-compassion. You can have that self-love. You can forgive yourself for, having a bad day and maybe not being fully responsible for your feelings, and to just stay present and grounded in the fact that I'm a being of love and light. I'm also a human, and my needs and my feelings do matter. So how do I want to be with this going forward?
I love that. How do I want to be with this going forward? It's a great question. That's kind of in alignment with one of the episodes we did a few months ago. What would love do now? That same question that we can ask at any point in time. What would love do now? And I am love, as are we all, because that's the essence of our being. And so we know the answer. We know the answer. What would love do now? We know the answer because we are love, right? The other thing, Gail, I wanted to just really bring this home. I was going to thank you for bringing it up. I was going to bring up the topic of forgiveness. Forgiveness is something that is absolutely critical because if we don't forgive, then we just create more. It's like throwing fire on the flame, throwing gasoline on the flame to try and put it out. Or as the other metaphor goes, I'm drinking poison hoping that you die. That's kind of what withholding forgiveness is all about. And it doesn't help anybody. And forgiveness is not for the other person anyway. Even if I'm saying in my mind, I forgive you, what I'm really doing is I'm releasing myself from any thoughts of revenge or judgment or any of that other stuff, because I'm imagining that you are some kind of a villain who deserves to be punished, right? Now, it may be that you did something really bad, but I'm not going to make the situation worse by continuing to hold on to this grudge and hoping for you to get whatever you deserve. You're going to get what you deserve sooner or later anyway, right? I need to take care of myself. I need to love myself. And one of the best ways I can do that is to forgive all the people in my life who I imagine are perpetrators. And then even more importantly, to forgive me. Release myself from the same kinds of judgment and condemnation and all the rest of it. As you said, Gail, yeah, I'm a human being. I'm a divine being having a human experience, and sometimes in my human experience, I do things that I don't like. Well, okay, get over yourself. If you need to make amends with the people or the situations that need to be fixed, go ahead and do that. But whatever you do, forgive yourself and have compassion. That's really, really vital. Sarah, I'd like to give you a chance to say something more here. I know you're got to leave here in a few minutes.
I think it's just important for each individual to, as Scott was saying, take a breath. think about it. Is this my mind that is causing this? Ego mind, monkey mind, whatever people wish to call it. That gift of that threat and feeling no threat at all, I just knew I was safe. Yeah, I had this massive spade practically over my head. You know, that was something very physical. Many of these things that we can get agitated about can cause us feelings, whatever you want to call them. They are just from words. They aren't from actions necessarily. And are we allowed? So I would go back to did you mean what I heard? I would really go back to ask that question. And if they turn around and they say, yeah, I meant exactly what you heard, you have a choice. You accept it, you try and have a conversation about it, or you walk away. If you don't like it, we can walk away. Now, I appreciate that some walking away may not be easy right in the precise moment in time, but it may be that it's right, I'm walking away from this conversation. And as Gail was saying, when we can talk about this like adults, then we can discuss it. Talked about triggers. The other way of putting it is, have you got somebody in your life that is very good at pushing your buttons and making you react? And if that is the case, there's a saying, it's roughly along the lines of, if respect is no longer being served at the table, it's time to leave the table. If people are doing that thing, but I don't know if you've read the book, Celestine Prophecies, and it's years since I read it, but it was about the different types of people and those people that feed off of your energy by pushing your buttons, by triggering you. And when you can no longer be triggered, they are most likely going to be the ones that will leave. Because
they're going to get awful hungry if they can't trigger you anymore.
Absolutely, 100%. So what are we doing to protect our energy, to keep our energies at love, rather than being dragged down to their level to feed them? Exactly. It's the importance of staying at that higher level. And I don't make that, it's not about us being better than other people. It's about our energies. It's about us being in that calm, joy, happy, joyful, all the positive words against all the negative ones. And all those negative feelings, staying in the positive feelings.
Right. Yeah.
It's like life is going to bring us the tough stuff. Of course, it's going to bring us the tough stuff. And we've all been through it, and we've all come out the other side. You know, another saying about sort of, you've survived everything, 100% of everything that life has thrown at you so far. We're doing brilliantly. We may be in a struggle phase. We may be just come out of struggle phase. We might be about to go into a struggle phase. Who knows? But we've survived everything because we're still here.
Right.
I can just finish with a very quick, especially for Renee, light language. It's for your heart and your soul, Renee. It's not for your ears and your mind. Tirashtini hina hana ke taharante hishini yama to ist ta and et kanai she arana te ni tiaka los tromanai che I niakate sore nai che ita mai kai toe tetakanai ishi anai.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Scott, would you like to close us out with some additional words?
Unfortunately, light language is not one of mine. I learned being in Peru that Spanish isn't either anymore. Thank you to everybody that was here. Renee, thank you for being on, holding on. Just know that you're not alone, no matter what you do. that there are people going through similar things to you, and that we are here to support. That's what our mission is to raise the vibration of everyone, and those people who seek help, to seek advice, we're here. I want to thank everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Gail, final words.
Final words. Yeah. So I would encourage Renee and anyone else who's catching the replay here to just start getting curious about your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts. Maybe not do this when you're triggered. Just do it throughout the day. You know, just take a moment, pause, and notice. Notice your body, what's going on in your thought process. How are you feeling in your heart? Can you feel your heart? And really take care of yourself in that moment. You know, ground yourself, remind yourself of who you want to be today. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, because now is what we have, right? Today, right now. Who do I want to be right now? How am I feeling right now? What do I need right now? Because all of that matters. You matter. What you need matters. Loving on yourself matters.
Loving on yourself matters. Beautiful. Love that. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you to Renee for showing up and staying through the entire show and for being present. And thank you to all who are watching the recording. And I just like to remind you all that we have all the recordings of every show we've ever done over on my website at yourlifemasterycoach.com. So please feel free to head over there and check them all out. And as you've heard already throughout this program, feel free to reach out to any one of us if you wish to have a little bit of extra one-on-one support. We are here, we are available, and we are willing to love you and help you love yourself. So see you next time on Soul Empowerment. Bye-bye.